I'm so excited. What? Last summer, I took a mindfulness class to help manage chronic pain. I learned a lot, but most of all, I learned that many of the tasks I already do in my daily life are acts of mindful meditation. Spinning yarn, feeding the chickens, brewing tea, and the most restorative of all, sewing by hand. I think the reason hand sewing is such a good mindful exercise for me is because, one, I'm really bad at it. It's difficult for my eyes and hands to cooperate, so I have to focus on what I'm doing. And two, the results are immediately useful. Be it a pincushion, clothing, a hazaf, the action has a purpose. And this makes it easier for me to spend my time meditating and creating. The downside is that hand stitching also increases the pain. The larger the cloth, the more difficulty I have. It's time for some help from a friend, a sewing bird. This is a modern reproduction of a Victorian sewing bird. It is a decorative clamp to hold the fabric and make stitching easier on the back and the hands. It's worth a try. But first, let's time travel to see what sewing is like before my adorable companion arrived. I am working on a winter skirt. The outer fabric is a wool-cotton blend that I flatlined with a thrifted cotton duvet cover. Because I'm a glutton for pain, or more likely because I love the colors so much I want to spend as much time with the fabric as possible, I decided to finish the seams by hand. Now before we go any further, I know that I'm doing most everything wrong. Part of that is because of the way I learned to sew, a combination of self-taught from Victorian household manuals, and hours of listening at my grandmother's knee, a former seamstress who learned to sew in the 1930s. And she explained these skills when I was still far too young to appreciate her wisdom. The other aspect is, well, my disability forces my hand. But, you know, I get there. It's clothing. I'm struggling with the weight of the fabric. My grip and the fabric itself won't cooperate. The pain is forcing me to stop after a minute or two. This is definitely not fun sewing. But before ordering the bird, I wanted to discover if it actually would help. So I made my own mocking sewing bird. My attempt is based on the modern sewing clamp we see quite often in Japanese hand sewing. It attaches to the table, there's a string and a clamp for the fabric. Well, I've got a clamp and some string. Just have to attach it to something heavy. Immediately, I feel the difference. The fabric begins to behave. My grip doesn't need to be as strong. I have control of where the needle goes. I like this. I am getting myself a bird. As we return to the present day, let's have a closer look at the sewing bird. You can tell this is a modern bird as the beak of the antique birds close seamlessly. And this bird has a gap. Another giveaway is how shiny the brass is, but I hope mine develops patina over time. The history of these sewing clamps is a fantastic rabbit hole. I've linked to Shannon Make's video in the description that dives into the depths of Sewingbird history. As much as I would love a flock of my own antique birds, it's simply not in the budget. But I caught a sale on Amazon by setting up a price watch on Camel for this little bird, and when it ducked below $20, I snatched it up. This sewing clamp is solid brass, and the designs are surprisingly detailed. I like how the bird face looks delightfully evil from some angles and cheerfully chirpy from others. Just the sort of thing I like in a sewing friend. The pin cushion is a brilliant red velvet and feels like synthetic fiber. The stuffing is firm. If I quickly stab the pin or needle in, it bounces out like it was insulted I should ever poke a pin in it. But a slow and steady pressure, and the cushion embraces the needle. A design feature to encourage mindful action, perhaps? The only serious flaw is the table clamp. Such small contact points with hard metal can easily damage the table. A temporary solution is to use some of the box it arrived in to protect the table from the clamp. But I need to find something more permanent. Any suggestions? The Sewingbird's beak has a grasp so strong it would make a goose envious. But it is still easy to adjust the fabric as I sew. On the whole, it is elegant and functional. I'm very glad I bought it because...
Personally, I think that's a hell of a bird.
But does the Sewingbird actually work? By now I'm on the hem of the skirt. I'm wrapping twill tape around the raw edge of the hem, similar to how Bernadette Banner does with wool braid in her walking skirt video. You'll find a link in the description. I know this is the wrong stuff to use, but I'm hopeful that twill tape will work well enough, as it's what I had to hand. The idea is that when the hem wears out, I can simply replace the tape instead of shortening the skirt to rehem it. This is a big step towards my wardrobe goal, which is to have long-lasting and easily repairable clothing. By the way, I have enough cloth left over to make another skirt like this. Let me know in the comments if you want to see how I make my everyday skirts. The bird grips the fabric firmly. It is easy and efficient to sew with the help of my little friend. I like this much better than the mocking sewing bird I made earlier, as this is quicker to adjust and gives me more control of the fabric. It's also a much prettier bird. This kind of sewing clamp works well with my style of sewing, which is to work towards myself. If I'm doing a running stitch or a back stitch, I often have the needle pointed towards me. Similarly, with the whip stitch, every stitch moves closer. I'm not sure if it would give the same feeling of control for people who sew sideways or away from themselves, as it's nice to have the tension coming from where the stitches are coming from. But it's worth experimenting.